In 2008, a South African man became the first black African in history to appear on the Forbes Billionaire list. Not a footballer, not a musician, a former lawyer. Just 14 years earlier was the first black partner ever to appointed at one of South Africa's top law firms in a country had only just ended apartheid. Today, Patrice Motsepe is worth somewhere between 3.7 and 4.3 billion dollars. He owns one of Africa's largest mining companies, sits on the board of a financial giant that runs one of South Africa's most successful football clubs, and leads football across the entire continent as the president of the CAF. This is the story of how he built that fortune, and it starts in a place you might not expect, not in a boardroom but underground, in the gold mines that bigger companies had already given up on. Patrice Motsepe was born in Soweto in 1962, the son of a chief who ran a small liquor business under South Africa's brutal apartheid system, a system that legally restricted where black South Africans could live, work, and build wealth. Motsepe didn't start in mining. He studied law, earning his degree at the University of Switzerland, and in 1994, the same year, Nelson Mandela became president. He became the first black partner at Bowman Gilfillan, one of South Africa's top corporate law firms. That timing matters more than it seems. 1994 wasn't just Motsepe's personal breakthrough. It was the exact moment South Africa's entire economy started to legally reopen for black entrepreneurs. After decades of apartheid laws, Motsepe didn't just have talent. He had it at the precise historical moment South Africa was, for the first time, willing to let that talent build real wealth. He didn't stay in law for long though. Motsepe left law to start Fortune Mining, a company that didn't own mines but provided contract mining services to bigger companies. Crucially, he often structured deals to be paid in a share of what was actually dug off the ground rather than flat cash fee. That's much riskier way to get paid. It's also a way to make far more money if you are right about the mine's value. In 1997, he made a move that changed everything. He bought a set of marginal gold mine shafts from Anglo Gold, mines that mining giants considered not worth the effort to keep running. Big companies were walking away from these mines because at their scale, small margins weren't worth the trouble. At Motsepe's scale, they were exactly worth the trouble. He restructured them, ran them more efficiently, and turned mines, a giant corporation considered worthless, into a profitable operation. That company became Africa's Rainbow Minerals arm, and by 2003, after a merger, it was listed on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, becoming the first African-controlled mining company to achieve that. But buying undervalued mines only explains part of the story. The next move is the one that turned a successful businessman into a genuine billionaire. After apartheid ended, the South African government introduced the Black Economic Empowerment Policy, BEE, designed to bring black South Africans into industries like mining that had been almost entirely white-owned and white-run for generations. Motsepe became one of the policy's most successful beneficiaries in the most literal sense. As ARM grew, he expanded aggressively into platinum, iron ore, coal, and other minerals, sectors where BEE requirements meant major international mining companies needed credible black South African partners to keep operating in a country at all. Motsepe, with a genuine mining companies already generating real profit, was the most credible partners available. This is worth being honest and balanced about. It's a genuine contested part of his story. Supporters point to Motsepe as proof BEE policy worked exactly as intended, by creating real black-owned industrial wealth, not just symbolic shareholding. Critics of BEE, or more broadly, have argued that the policy across the wider economy often enriched a small, already well-connected elite rather than spending opportunity widely. Motsepe himself is frequently cited on both sides of that debate as either the clearest success of the story of BEE. Either way, the mining side of ARM was only ever half of the story. The other half came through a financial deal that turned his fortune from large to historic. In 2004, Motsepe investment vehicle Ubuntu Botho Investment struck a landmark empowerment deal with Sanlam, one of South Africa's largest financial services companies. Ubuntu Botho took a significant equity stake in Sanlam, funded through the kind of structured deferred payment empowerment financing that became common in major South African BEE deals during this era. That single deal is now widely regarded as one of the most successful black economic empowerment transitions in South African history. As Sanlam grew over the following 2 decades, so did the value of Motsepe's stake, turning what started as a mining fortune into a genuine diversified empire spanning mines, banking, insurance, and asset management. In 2016, he added another layer, launching African Rainbow Capital, a private equity firm investing broadly across the African continent, later listed on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange in its own right. By this point, Motsepe wasn't just a mining magnate anymore. He was one of the most diversified black owners with a foothold in nearly every major sector of the South African economy. Here's the part of his story most South Africans actually know him for day-to-day football. Motsepe owns Mamelodi Sundowns, one of South Africa's most dominant football clubs, and in 2021 he was elected the president of the Confederation of African Football, CAF, putting him in charge of the sports across the entire continent.